As I had mentioned that what I have planned to cover in this 3 module is about understanding the effect of different controller in dynamic time response. Okay, and today is the last session for this. Okay, and I would say like I have asked TA to upload one assignment also, and I want you guys to keep in your wherever you are watching it, because at the end I will try to solve 1 or 2 problems from that assignment. The solution also will be provided, but I want to solve it, understand the meaning of that. Okay, that's what we will be looking at. So as I mentioned, the objective of this 3 sessions were to understand the effect of dynamic time response. Let me recap what we have done in last class. Okay, last class I talk about it. First order system, second order system. Okay, correct. I am trying to summarize it what we have covered. So in a first order system, I mentioned the transfer function is going to be something k by tau s plus 1, where k is your gain constant and tau is your time constant. Okay, and as I mentioned that like whenever we analyze a control system, we look at the response of the system for a very standard input signal, and specifically unit step and unit ramp, and we leave it to the real scenario the way it works. But this standard input signal tell us, okay, how my system is going to behave. So this first order system, when we analyze with respect to unit step and unit ramp, so as I have mentioned, this tau is going to say the is going to give me the measure that how fast is your system. Okay, how fast is your system. If tau is small, then system is fast. Tau is more, system is slow. And this k is a gain constant. It doesn't change. It doesn't affect the shape of the response. It only give the magnification. Okay. So since this magnification and this we can work it out by putting some other amplifier. So I am interested in looking for this time constant. And another way to look at it, if you look at this pole of the system, this is my system, and the pole of the system is at location minus 1 by tau. So if I just now I have like we have seen, if tau is small, system is fast. So what does that mean? Tau is small means this has to be further away from the imaginary axis, from this axis. This is my S plane. I am trying to plot. This is my pole minus 1 by tau. If I decrease if I make it tau as very smaller and smaller, this quantity will be very high. So pole will be moving toward the left side. So one point we can remember from this thing, that when I am taking a first order system, in a first order system, I know the time constant is going to be one parameter, because this has to be 1, and this quantity has to be as small as possible, so that your system will be fast. Okay. Similarly, we went for the second order system, and your standard input omega n square divided by s square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square. Okay. This just you can look at it. This is going to be standard response. Okay. And here one more part. Thus we are talking about the first order system. This is a standard way of writing. This is a second order system. The system could be mechanical, electrical, hydraulic, anything. As I have shown you, this is the typical response for a load when there is a torque is an input and output is your velocity. Okay, and it could be your and simple RC circuit also. Okay, as long as this maximum power of S is 1, we call as a first order system. Similarly, the second order system, I have given an example. The second order system where you are applying a load and you are using a torque to rotate a load, and your object of attribute of interest is rotation and input is a torque, then we have seen the relation, it comes to second order system. Okay. This is what we have seen it, and now that we have talked about it, we analyze the scenario for 3 cases: zeta equal to 0, zeta more than 1, zeta 0 and 1. Okay, and as I mentioned, for a standard input signal, if zeta equal to 0, you get response something like this. It's oscillatory behavior. Okay, and if zeta is more than 1, then we get the response something like this. Okay, this is zeta greater than 1. Okay, so this is called overdamped scenario. This is called oscillation behavior when the damping factor is 0. This zeta is your damping factor. Okay, and if you take the zeta between 0 and 1, the response comes something like this. Okay, fine. So as I mentioned, this output response, if it's oscillatory, it is not at all desirable in most of the control system. Zeta is very more than, is very large than 1. It is called overdamped scenario. It will take a lot of time to reach your steady state value, something k. Okay, and that's why the system is going to be very slow. So we choose, most of the cases we choose zeta between 0 and 1. And here, how do I quantify this? For that, we have seen some 4 parameters. One is peak time, pi by omega n 1 minus zeta square. Then there is a rise time. Then there is a maximum overshoot, e to the power minus zeta square 1 minus zeta square. And there was a settling time, 4 by zeta omega n. Please, this 4 relation, what we have discussed in last class, try to remember. Okay, that this is the way we can quantify a dynamic response of a typical second order system. And how we have derived this relation, which I have explained you, is pretty, you can able to look at it in your notes. Okay, so what I want, settling time should be as small as possible. Peak over should be as small as possible. Peak time should be as small as possible. Correct? This is a desired. This is a desire you want to design. Whenever designing a control system, this is a desirable property you are looking for. Okay. One more aspect, why we are choosing the zeta between 0 and 1. What happens when zeta this zeta equal to 1 is a critically damped situation where the oscillation has just disappeared. If you take more than 1, it is an overdamped scenario. So what happened, like this might take a lot of time to reach it. So that's why we have defined a parameter called settling time. Settling time is defined that at what location you are reaching to some tolerance band, 2%, 5%. Once you reach the tolerance band, you will not come out. Okay, so that also we say can use as a metric, and it is very much useful because sometimes you are expecting an output is 0.9. It doesn't matter, it has to be 0.9. It could be 0.88. It could be 0.92 also. As long as it's oscillating around that behavior, I am fine. So those cases, as soon as I reach that band, I am happy. So that time is called settling time, and this is also used as a one metric to define the second order system. Okay. So this we have seen. Now one more aspect here, as I mentioned with respect to pole 0 location. So in a second order system, since there are going to be 2 poles, so I am writing it here. Okay, please, this you relate it with the second order system. In this, there are going to be 2 pole, and we have seen when the this 2 pole at conjugate location, if zeta equal to 0, this pole is going to be an imaginary axis. If zeta equal to 1, the both pole is going to be on a real axis. Okay, and as you keep increasing zeta, it move in this direction. Okay, so this is what you can look at it. So by looking at the pole, I can say my system, the way it is behaving is zeta equal to 0 means oscillatory behavior, zeta equal to 1 means it's a overdamped system, and in between this thing you can look at it what the response is going to be there. Okay, and you can relate it that zeta omega n is like for this is going to be this part. So as long as the zeta omega n is high, the settling time will be, can you see that 4 by zeta, the settling time is inversely proportional to zeta omega n. Means if my poles are little bit away from this side, I will say my system is going to be fast. Settling time is small, my system is fast. Okay, this part is clear that we have studied the first order system, second order system, and what are the desired characteristic. In this case, pole should be far away, otherwise the time constant. In this case also there is going to be conjugate pole. So what I want conjugate pole to be somewhere, for system to be fast, it should not be imaginary axis, should not be real axis. Okay, and there is some quantity, this we are going to use it, you can look at it in your notebook. Okay, fine. So this is what we have done, and this we have built on top of the first session where I talk about it. Any control system where a sequence of block is there, the cascade of block, and each block we are defining by some transform, by some Laplace transform of the impulse response. We want to understand the effect of controller. So let me draw a typical block diagram of any control system. This I had mentioned D of S, and this I had mentioned actuator plus plant, entire thing I am writing G of S, and this is going to be a feedback element. Okay, and there also some disturbance also comes. At present in my entire session I am not considering the effect of disturbance because that requires some much more time. So I want to talk about here. So this is my output, and this is where it is going on. Okay, and till now we never talk about it. What is this controller? I just mentioned this entire thing. Now the next 1.5 hours I am going to talk about it, the importance of this controller. What are the different controllers has been used, and we will see when we put the controller how the response is going to change, and the metric which we have talked about it, how is it going to vary. Okay, fine. So here this is the negative feedback system which I have mentioned, and this I can call as an error, because what is the reference target, what is the reference input, and I am subtracting from the actual output, this I am calling as a error. And this controller will take that error and will take an appropriate action, and that we call as a U, that we call as a control signal, and it is given to a plant. Okay, this absolutely makes sense, because when I want to work on a feedback system, what I say, what I wanted to do it and what I am getting it, I take the error and based on that error take the appropriate action. This is what we do in most of the time also. When we are asking some student to solve a problem, we give some problem and we see how is it going, and if it doesn't work, we look back the way I have taught them, and this is the way we learn. So we can say this is a typical example of a feedback system. Okay, fine. This is U is there. So in a literature, like in this part, the 3 type of controller has been used. PROP, proportional controller. Okay, in a proportional controller, it is said that this U is going to be directly proportional to E. Okay, this is what is that. Proportional controller means, as the word says, the control signal is going to be proportional to the error. Okay, so this proportionality constant is defined by K, and if we take a Laplace transform, US is going to be K of E of S. So this is my proportional controller, where my control signal is proportional to error. Okay, take the second thing that is very popular, proportional integral. Okay, so in this case, your error signal, your control signal is going to be proportional to Kc 1 plus Pi Okay, can you see there are 2 terms. One is here also ET will be there. Okay, there are 2 terms, Kc Et plus Kc Ti E tau, correct. So there are 2 terms. One is proportional to the error, second is proportional to the error term, integral term. Integral term, can you see? You are taking the integration of your error. Okay, so that's why it's called proportional plus integral. Proportional plus integral, and if you will take a Laplace transform, is going to be Kc plus 1 by, like, let me call that Ki, proportional integral constant, Ki by S E of S. Okay, so what I have done, this entire thing, when Kc into Ai, I have makes it one term Ki, let me define it further properly because it's not making sense. This I can write it, this is going to be Kc plus Ki divided by S E of S. Is that fine? Like the error U of S, no, not error, the control signal is consists of two term, proportional plus integral term. Okay, fine. And the third is proportional derivative controller. So as the word says, U of t is going to be Kc Et plus Ed d by dt E of t. Correct? When you look at this, there are two terms in proportional derivative controller. The one term is going to be proportional plus then the proportionality constant, and it is term is the derivative of error. Okay, that's why it's called proportional derivative controller. Okay, and if you take a Laplace transform, I can write it k plus kd s E of s. Okay, so this is what there are three type of controller: proportional controller, proportional integral controller, proportional derivative controller. Okay, and the word says, you can see proportional controller means your control signal is going to be proportional to the error. Proportional integral means the error, this u means like a control signal is going to be two term proportional plus integral of the error ki by s, and as you know, when we take 1 by s, it is equivalent to integral. And proportional derivative means there is going to be two term proportional plus derivative, because you are taking a derivative of the error. So the entire term is going to be Kc plus Std. You know that if you take a Laplace transform of a derivative term, is going to be S of Et. That's why it has come. This all of you must be aware of your fundamental of Laplace transform, which we have done. Now people have also talked about it, PID means proportional plus integral plus derivative term. In this case, your E of S will be Kc plus Ki by S plus Kd by Kd into S E of S. Okay, there is a proportional, integral, derivative. So these four controllers were very popular in most of the real world control system. Okay, and we will see with some example, when you put this in this case, how is it going to affect your dynamic time response. Okay, fine. So this is what we have seen. Please remember this, if you can work it out. So as I mentioned in like a first session, that controlling a temperature in a room using some by controlling a flow of steam, we can make a closed loop system. So let me draw that diagram, because that is going to be very useful. So this is what, if you remember, I have a room in which I want to control the temperature, and here I am providing the flow of steam. Okay, and as I mentioned, this is the temperature, this is the room where I want to maintain a temperature something, and there is going to be sensor which will give me a temperature that I will convert in using some voltage Et, and what is the reference temperature theta r, I will convert in Er, then I will take a subtraction of that, and I will use the amplifier, then I will use a transducer, and then I will use a valve position some system, and then I am going to control the what is the valve going to be up and down, and which will control the flow of your system. Okay, so this just I have explained you a typical way of representing your current control, typical way of representing a system which control the temperature of a room. Okay, so I am not going to inside detail, but you can look at it from the very far block diagram. How does it work? This is the room, this is the steam is flowing, the temperature is coming, the temperature I am converting into some voltage by using some thermostat, or there are several mechanisms, and once I have converted a reference temperature to a reference voltage, then I can take a subtraction, this two has to be in same dimension, and then I have, what happened, this value is very small, so we convert it, we amplify by amplifier, then this, since is the current, then we change to a transducer by changing electrical energy to mechanical, and then mechanical component we change it to control the movement of the your valve, and the valve is controlled here in such a way that steam is flowing. Okay, so this is what we have done it. Okay, now I am writing it in terms of a block diagram, so then we can see the effect of different controllers. Okay, so this I can write it in a, this is my plant, like how do I see that the room temperature is controlled in this part, and this is if you look at any standard book and all these things, it is approximate as a first order system, Kp tau p s plus 1. Okay, this part, like you are giving some voltage, and this is you are giving a steam flow, and which control the write as the temperature of the thing. So this is what the temperature which I have written is theta of temperature is there, correct, and the input is, so it is written. Then there is an amplifier, and this is your some transducer Kt, and the sequence of system is there, and this what happened, the reference temperature you are writing it, and I am using it some kind of system which will convert my temperature to a voltage ER. Okay, the thermostat which you can talk about it, and this is the constant of the thermostat. Okay, and at the feedback path again I have the same thermostat, and which will measure the temperature from outside, and it will change it to a ET. So this is what is very much clear. Just now we talk about it. This is the reference signal. I have used the one some element. In this case, the thermostat. It will convert to a voltage. Then from the output, I have got the what is the actual temperature. I have converted to a voltage. Then I have taken a subtraction. When the subtraction comes, then I have amplifier. Then amplifier followed by transducer, and those things, valve position. That valve position constant I can write it in a Kx, and it is, once the valve position is controlled, it will feed to this part, and this entire system where input is that, output is the temperature, is generated by a first order system Kp by tau ps plus 1, where Kp is the time the system gain, and tau p is the time constant. Okay, so this is what I have represented this part. So what happens when I have said, okay, I have to maintain a temperature of theta r. So what happened? What I will do it, for theta r to maintain, I have to know this calibration. Calibration means I should know how much steam is required. So I will control the valve position, and it will go to a whatever valve position is required. Now I will see what is the exact temperature. If the exact temperature is also theta r, then it will maintain the same position of the valve, and it will control the flow of the steam. If there is a difference, then error will be appear, and whether we have to increase the we have to work in such a way that take the valve position upper side or lower side, so that we can control the flow of the steam, that can be worked out. Okay, so don't think that when I am making this error is 0, it means that there is no signal is flowing. Actually, when error is 0, it means there is a steady state input has been provided. Okay, so this part is clear that I have done entire thing. Now what we want to do it, this entire thing Kp, Kat, I want to change it one constant. Okay, because this I can look at it Kp, K into Kx, Kt, Ka, Kx, entire thing let me change by a constant K dash P, and this is let me use Kp only, because, and this is tau p s plus 1, and this is K0. Okay, this part is clear. I have just taken the multiplication of this constant Kx, Ka, Kt, Kp, and made one constant Kp is K0 is there. One important point has to be noted there. This system here, this is a first order system. So what does it mean? Is there something like a 0th order system also? Yes, there exists. It means this is s to the power of 0 some constant. Okay, this term is going to be 1. So this system are 0th order system. What does that mean of 0th order system? Means the system will respond quickly, like the system gain is going to be something constant. So if you give the input, the response also will be immediately k times. Suppose I give the input, response is going to be kx. So the 0th order system is going to be very fast. Correct? That's the meaning of first order system. It is also called first lag system. It means there is going to be some delay. Second order system, is going to be some more delay. So if you keep on increasing the order of the system, it becomes much more slow. Okay. So here I am assuming that all this amplifier, transducer, wall position, all these are a first order, zeroth order system, and now I am doing the analysis. Okay. So I can think about it. Here I am adding as a proportional constraint also, like K, which I have mentioned. When you talk about the proportional controller, so you know that this U is going to be proportional to the error. So let me add that as a here K. So the entire thing is again fixed in the Kp, because in Kp is a multiplication of the proportional constant into transducer constant into amplifier constant into offset, that wall position constant. Entire thing is fixed in one part, and only in the variable part is the K of your proportional controller. Okay, fine. So this part is clear. Now let us see what is going to be the final response. This is your theta s. Okay, so theta s divided by theta rs. I want to know. How do I solve it? So for that, this I can write it theta s divided by, let me take this as the error signal, Es is going to be Kp tau p s plus 1. Is that part is clear? Okay. Now what is Es? Kp tau p s plus 1, and this is going to be, Es is going to be theta r s K0 minus K0 theta s. Correct? This input is going to be this signal minus this signal. This signal is what? Theta r into K0, theta r into K0, and this signal what I am getting it? Theta into K0. So this error is this term. Okay? This term you got it? Okay. Now if you solve it, this part, the theta s by this, let me write it here. If you work it out, this K0, so okay, this K0 term will come out, and again let me write the entire as a Kp, because Kp into K0, so this all this thing K0 and all this thing is fixed. We are varying only the proportionality constant, remaining is fixed. So that's why I have written only Kp1 K again, so that you should not be get confused with this part. And this is going to be tau p s plus 1 theta rs minus theta s. And if you take this term this side, theta s, so what? Theta s by theta rs is going to be, this will go that side, Kp tau p s plus 1 plus Kp. Okay, this is the term you are going to get it. Please, it's a small manipulation and you can get it. Okay, so my this word is clear. I am interested in finding out the entire transfer function of the system, theta by theta r. Okay, so theta s by theta r is by Kp tau p s plus 1 plus Kp. Is that part is clear? Okay, so now I want to understand, because this is what I have put a proportional controller, and there is a proportional controller, there is a constant K, where if I change it, how is it going to behave? Okay, this what we have got it. This is what is the, look at, by adding a different, by adding a proportional constant, the order of the system has not changed. This is the first order system, so I can write it in this way, Kp divided by 1 plus Kp, and this is tau p divided by 1 plus Kp s plus 1. Okay, this is standard way of writing your first order system. Standard way of writing your first order system means this is your gain and this is your time constant. Now look at it. If you increase the Kp, the time constant is coming down. It means your system is becoming faster and faster. That's the advantage. Can you see the part that if I add a proportional controller and if I keep on increasing the K, the time constant is coming down. Okay. If this system was not there, like without this, the time constant would have been something tau p. Now it has come down. So we can say that by adding a proportional controller, and if you increase the proportionality constant, the system is becoming faster and faster. Now second thing, you take it, what is the steady state value? Theta ss for a unit step input, correct? For unit step input, that you can find out s tend to 0 s, and this is going to be 1 by rs, and this is going to be this term which we have got it, Kp divided by tau Ps plus 1 plus Kp. Is S tend to 0, this will get cancelled out and this will become Kp divided by 1 plus Kp. Okay. So what we can infer from that, as Kp tends to, Kp is very high, this quantity is going to close to reach 1. Not exactly 1, but it will reach to close to 1. Okay. So with these 2 points, we can conclude that if I am using a proportional controller, and if I increase the constant of the proportional controller very high, if I choose it, then the time constant will come down, and the time constant will come down, it gives me the this point that the system will become faster. Okay. And other part is that steady state value, if you keep making Kp very high, this quantity will go to close to 1. It means the system is going to steady state value 1, that is desirable. Okay, fine. So this we have understood from this part. If you are adding a proportional controller, then what is happening and what are the advantages we have seen. Now what is the loss? Okay, yes, things are not going to be always rosy. There is going to be some loss also. What is the loss it could be? One loss which we see here is that the assumption that this system is first order system, the system is zeroth order system, is not going to hold true. It's obviously because we don't have any system. Even if you give the input, the response comes immediately. Okay. So this assumption of this becoming a first order is going to be very, so the assumption of this becoming a zeroth order is going to be not satisfied in the real scenario. Then in that scenario, what will happen? This becomes something S plus 1 or something. Minimum is going to be first order. I have added it. So what will happen? This entire thing, if you look at it, the order of system has increased. And if order of system has increased, if keep on increasing K, the system will go to the verge of instability, which I have not covered. So I just want to emphasize this point that any control system, the stability is a bigger challenge. Okay. And what it says, stability means, if you go slightly, I want to cover, stability is defined as, one of the stabilities, BIB stability means bounded output will give a bounded output. Okay. And bounded output and input, if there is a bounded input and it gives unbounded output, then I say system is unstable. So that you know that you are giving some input of initial one sinusoid and output is unbounded, it's giving a very high value. So your system will collapse. Okay. So that's why you don't want to design a system which is unstable. So what has been observed, that if you in a reality you can make the system, but this might lead to be instability, because your assumption in a mathematical analysis of this system is becoming a zeroth order system is not valid, and it becomes a higher order system in actually, and if you keep on increasing, the system will become unstable. And this part I can show you with a small example by that how the system will become unstable. Here timing, if I want to analyze this this system is if I want to analyze that under what scenario, if I don't assume the system is zeroth order system, the system is not zero order system, then what will happen? So for that, let me take a little bit simplified way of illustrating the idea. Okay, this is your theta r, and this is your, you have taken K is your proportionality constant, and let me assume any one of the system, and that is a tau s plus 1. Okay, because that is the first order system, and this is my plant tau p s plus 1 and Kp, and this is going to be K0. Okay, all of you got the idea? Because now what happens, I am relaxing the assumption of the system becoming a first order, and I am making the system is now first order, and instead of entire thing, just I want to illustrate the idea, I am considering only one of the system is the first order, the remaining is the zeroth order system, because all of the system are not zeroth order. Okay. Now look at it. Again we can K into this K into Kp, we can make it one constant, and I can write it this in this form, theta r, this is K0 plus minus, this entire thing is tau s plus 1 K Kp tau p s plus 1. Okay, this K in Kp, again I can write it some 1k, and this is your k0. Okay. Now what will happen? I have just simplified it because this all the constant. Instead of working on our kp, kx, kv, I have made it only one constant kp. I know because only one parameter is going to vary and remaining the constant. Okay. So what will happen here is your theta s divided by theta rs is going to be, I am just writing this term, k, okay, kkp tau s plus 1 tau ps plus 1 plus kkp. Okay. So I am not solving it again the way we did it for the previous case. I am extrapolating it. You can write it as theta s by theta rs, and you make this constant kkp. Here it will work tau s plus 1 tau ps plus 1 plus a. Fine. Now look at the system. Look at now this is the denominator part, and this system is going to be second order system. So you look at what we have considered, the order of the system has increased. Okay. Since the order of system has increased, now look at how the poles of the system is going to be there. We look at it, the order of the way poles are going to be there. So think about it, when you work it out, because there is the one parameter k is varying. Okay, there are two poles, 1 by tau p. Okay, I want to see how these poles of this, how the roots of this characteristic equation are behaving if I am varying this k. That's what my interest. Okay, and this we call asymptotic behavior of pole, the way pole is moving. Okay, asymptotic behavior means the way pole is moving by varying the k value of this, also called root locus. Okay, so I am trying to look at the locus of the root, the way it is moving with respect to k. So if you look at it, there are two poles, 1 by tau p and 1 by tau. Okay, what it says that this is the pole location of the system and this is the pole location of this component, some of this component. And here this I am keeping it purposely here. It says that if I move away from the system, this pole, then my system is faster. Okay, so it says that my system is, this system is slower than this component, and it's a reasonable assumption. Okay. Now if I keep increasing k, so what happen? These two poles will come and they depart. Okay, this is asymptotic behavior. You can check it by using this different value of k. What happened? K equal to 0, 0 0.1, 2, 3. So this location of pole will come and will depart. It will become a imaginary component. Okay, this conjugate location. Okay, so you can see here this part is coming it, and once it becomes a conjugate, means system is going to be oscillatory behavior. That all of you know, that is the conjugate location. The system response is going to be oscillatory. Okay, and if I add one more 1 by tau s plus 1 here, so what happens? The third pole also will be there. It will move. If I keep one more tau s plus 1, there will be one more pole. So as we increase this, as we take the more reality situation, that this assumption that system is not zeroth order, it is some first order or second order system, the entire order of the system has increased, and in this case there is a good chance that one of the pole will come in this side, right half plane. So I want to highlight it that whenever we have work on any control system, we want that pole of the system should be on the left half plane. If it is lying on the right half plane, it will become a unstable system, which I talk about the BIB on stability. Okay, so we don't want at any cost the pole should be coming on the right half plane. So here in this case, if I vary this k, and if in a reality what happens, the system is not first order, the zeroth order system. This is a very high order system. If I increase the k, some pole might come this side, and if any one of the pole comes on the right hand side, the system becomes unstable. So with this I want to conclude it that it is good if you use a proportional controller. It helps you to make system fast. It helps you to get your steady state value close to what is desired, as we have seen in the case of unit step, but it affects the stability of the system, because here when I have done the analysis, I am not taking it. So because if you take a higher order system and if you keep increasing the k, the system becomes unstable. Okay, so this part is clear to all of you that pros are system is becoming fast and then steady state value is going to close to 1, but cons are system will be unstable if you keep increasing k. So this is what one has to keep in mind when we are working. Okay. So this is about proportional control. I will take the another case of the proportional plus integral controller. Okay, proportional plus integral controller. So in that case, let me consider the same scenario. This theta of s is here. I have added k0, and this is my plus minus this part. And here the change is, please note that here I am adding a ki by s integral term. Okay. Let me understand the system with respect to this ki by s. Now this whatever kp, kv, kx, all the term will come, and this is my plant. This is going to be my plant, kp by tau p s plus 1, and finally this is going to be k0, and this is what, correct? So look at changes which I am doing it. Earlier I was putting a proportional controller, now I am adding an integral term. Now I want to see how this behavior is going to change. Okay, this part is clear. This output is theta s. Okay, the only difference we have done, earlier I was using only the k term, now I am adding a ki by s. This is my integral. Okay, so now let us simplify this. This is going to be theta of s k0 plus minus, okay, ki. Now entire thing ki, kp, kp, all this thing you can write it k is going to be s tau p s plus 1, and this is going to be k0. Okay, is that part is clear? I have come from here to here because ki, kp, 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 all this thing, all the term constant I am writing as a 1k, and the numerator is s into tau p s plus 1, and this term is k0. Okay, fine. Now you write it theta s by theta rs. This is what is required. Okay, so you can solve it. It's going to be, okay, theta s by theta rs, and as I have worked out, I am just writing this term k by s square tau p plus s plus k. Okay, this is very simple. I can write it like what we did the previous case. I can write theta by e is this, and e I can write it theta s into k0 minus theta into k0. It will come, correct? And this is my theta reference. So now you look at it. We got this. Okay, theta s by theta rs, k by s square tau p plus s plus k. Okay, this is I am getting a with respect to integral term. Okay, now let us see what is the pros and cons. Okay, here what I want all of you to compute one term which is very crucial here. Okay, I am eliminating this. This is what is required that all of you understand. What is the theta steady state value for unit step signal? Okay, the unit step signal. So this all of us know, limit s tend to 0, s theta rs is 1 by s into k s square tau p s plus k. Okay, can you see that tau p s plus k? Sorry, this entire thing I should write it s square tau p plus s plus k. Is that part is clear? I have just added it here. Theta s is theta rs into this part. So theta r is 1 by s, and I want to analyze this entire term when s tend to 0. This will give me a steady state value. Okay, and if you work it out, this will give 1 1. Okay, and this if you do it is going to reach a k by k, so it is 1. The important thing is here steady state value is 1 irrespective of what value of this term ki. So one important part is that if I use the integral controller in this thing, my steady state value is guaranteed to reach 1. In other words, I will not get any error. So on the other end, a proportional controller, we were getting the steady state value k by 1 plus k. It was going close to 1. It was not exact 1, but in this case, it is exact 1. That's the best part of integral controller. In another way, I can term this thing that if you add an integral term, it is going to help you to achieve the steady state error 0. Is that part is clear? I have just solved for the steady state value. You can solve for the steady state error also, and if you solve it, this will be a 0 in this case. So if you add an integral term, the system is going to get a steady state value, in this case unity. Okay. Another way to interpret the same result, if you remember yesterday we have talked about it, Kp, Kv and Ka, correct? Position error constant, velocity error constant and acceleration constant. And if you remember this term, limit s tend to 0, g of s hs. This is limit s tend to 0, s gs hs. Please look at your note, and this acceleration error constant is limit s tend to 0, s square, g of s, h of s. Okay, and look at the GSH is this term into this term. So if you add a 1 by s integral, it is increasing the type of system. Correct? Yesterday, if you remember, we talked about the type 0 system, type 1 system, type 2 system, type n system. So if I add an integral, it increases the type of the system. And if you look at the one of the column which I have worked out yesterday, that if you increase the type of the system, you are going to get a 0 error for some input. Correct? Look at the first row of yesterday which we have talked about it. For unit step input, type 0 error is 1 by 1 plus Kp. Okay. Type 1 system, this error is 0. Type 2 system, this error is 0. So here you are increasing the type of the system by adding a one integral. Okay. By adding an integral, you are increasing the type of the system. Hence the error is coming down. So both these terms are leading to this some conclusion that by adding an integral controller, you get a steady state error 0, irrespective of what constant ki you are using it. That's the important thing. This would not have possible in the case of proportional value of k, your system might become unstable. Okay, this two part is clear. In a proportional controller, you are getting the advantage of in a proportional controller, you are making your system fast. Okay, that we have seen, but you are not getting a steady state value 1. In integral controller, you are adding a term in such a way that it is in the type of the system, hence it is helping you to achieve the steady state error 0. Okay. Now what is the loss? Okay, you studied it, there is the advantage. You got the steady state value 1 and for the unit step, and we are happy. But what is the loss? To understand the loss, okay, to understand the loss, now look at the behavior of the roots. This is my denominator. So my characteristic equation is this. Characteristic equation, like this is my transfer function, and this is going to be s square tau p plus s plus k. Now if you solve it, because my k is what? This k term is consists of multiplication of all the k plus ki into, or not plus, into multiplication of ki. Okay, so that's why this k is varying. I want to understand when I vary the ki, then what will happen. Okay, so if you look at it, the second order system, and if you solve it, this is second order system. What are the roots going to be? Minus tau p plus minus, okay, e square minus 4ac. So this is okay. Sorry, this is a second order system, correct? All of you know that ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0 is a quadratic equation. The roots are going to be minus b plus minus b square minus 4ac divided by 2, correct? Now in this case, if I do it, what are the roots going to be? Minus 1 plus minus 1 minus 4k tau p divided by 2 tau p. Okay. Now k equal to 0. So one term is going to be, if you choose k equal to 0, then this term will be 1. So minus 1 plus minus 1 by 2 pi. So there is going to be two roots. One root is going to be 1 minus 2 tau p, other root is going to be 0. correct. Now if you keep increasing k, this is the asymptotic behavior, it will come and it will go to this side. Okay. So this is what I am talking about, the poles of the system. By adding an integral controller, what is happening? So tau p is your system pole and this is your 1I by s, you have got it. Now look at, as I mentioned, if my poles are very far away from the left hand side, system is fast. If I am going this side, system is slow. So look at, when there was a no integral controller, it has 1 by tau p, system was pretty fast, because now because of adding of a 1 by s, the poles are coming this side. So your system are becoming a slower and slower, okay, because the new poles are going to be somewhere here. So your response will not be as quick as possible. So with this, we can conclude that if you use an integral controller, yes, it helps you to achieve the steady state at 0, but it makes your system sluggish, slow. This part is clear, that if I use the integral controller, the system is going to be sluggish, but the steady state error is becoming a 0. So that's the pros and cons of using the integral controller. And this the same point I have used in different terms, because it is helping you increase the type of the system. In this example, I'll show you, look at it. Now I talk about it, the way roots are behaving, this is called root locus. The way roots are behaving, it is if you add an integral controller, if you keep increasing ki, it will force the pole to come towards the imaginary axis. If you come to the imaginary axis, means the system is becoming slow. That's the point I have explained you for both first order system and second order system. And one more part which we have discussed earlier also, because in this case which I have done the analysis, again I have assumed that my amplifier, offset, controlling the offset or transducer, I have assumed a zero order system. In practice, it's not going to be a zero order system. There's going to be some first order or second order system. The entire system is going to be very high order. And if I have a very high order system, you keep increasing the constant, there is a good chance, there is a chance the system might go to be right, the pole of the system might go to a right half plane and your system become unstable. Okay. So this two part is clear to all of you. Okay. Fine. So what I have explained, the effect of a different control, the two types of controller. One is a proportional controller, an integral controller, and how is it affecting your time response. And there are pros and cons in proportional controller. Yes, system become faster, but here you may not get a steady state value one. You have to be use a very high way. But in practice, that is not going to be feasible solution, because in practice the system are typically very high order. If you increase the k, the system might go, the poles of the system might go to the right half plane, and your system become unstable. The second type of controller which we talk about, the integral controller, and we have seen if you add an integrator that increase the type of the system, hence it will help you to achieve the zero error for some of the input signal which we have seen. So it's very good part, but it makes your system sluggish because it forces you to move your system pole to the right half side. Okay, and here also if your system is very high order, you keep increasing k, your system is going to be unstable. Now the third type of controller which we talk about is derivative controller. The derivative controller, as I discussed, that u of s is going to be 1 plus kds e of s, something like this. Okay, this is what we have seen, correct? Your control signal is going to be proportional plus derivative of your error signal. Just I have written in your, if you look at the today's first 10 minutes which I have covered. Okay. So what you are doing it is like 1 plus kds and there is some system. And this is the feedback path. Okay. This is what I can interpret it. Okay. I am adding a ds as a proportional plus derivative term. Another way I can look at it, I am adding a 0 in your system. That part is clear? Because 0 in the sense, suppose if I consider my system as a second order system, so omega n square s square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square, and this is s plus z. Okay, because 1 plus kds, I have just written it 1 plus kds. So I am adding a 0 on the forward path. I am giving the different term of the derivative controller that I am adding a 0 in the forward path. Okay, this is equal, correct, because the s term is coming in 1 plus kds. I can write it this. Okay. So I want to understand this part, that if I add a 0 in my forward path, then what will happen? To explain this part, okay, this is my ys divided by rs, s plus z, okay, fine. I wanted to explain one more part. I just miss it. Please, I will come back to this part, that derivative controller. Okay. I'm sorry, like I just missed part. I thought I'll cover it. So if you remember, this is my d of s, correct, and this is my error signal, and this is my input signal. I'm not drawing the entire thing. I'm just drawing, this is my reference signal, this is the feedback path, the error is coming, and this is the controller. Okay. So this is a typical behavior of, suppose, okay, this is my e of t time. So what I am saying, my error with respect to time I am plotting is a typical behavior. It could be anything. A typical behavior means, as we start, the error going to be increasing or very high, and if you keep working out, the error will come down and it will reach to a steady state value. This is what we want to convey. Okay, this part is clear. Now, one interesting thing you can see here, if I see at particular time t1 and time t2, okay, please let me again emphasize this point, because it's a very intuitive way of understanding the derivative controller. The derivative controller which I talked to you about is going to be here. Okay, so for that, what I have done, this is my reference signal, this is my feedback path signal, there is an error term, and I am plotting the way error is behaving, and this is a typical behavior. It could be anything, but just I am taking to illustrate the point. Okay. So if you look at this error at particular time t1, the error is this, and if I take a particular time 2 t2, both time error is same. Okay. So if you work on the proportional controller or integral proportional controller, this signal will be proportional to error. So it doesn't matter what is the error, you are going to get it, correct. Both, but what is the difference? In this case, your error is increasing. In this case, your error is decreasing. So this thing is very, very crucial, correct. This, you know, as the error is decreasing, it is good for you. So you should be changing your k appropriately. So what to do? Since I want to talk about it, the change of the error, so one way to introduce the derivative term. That's why we are using this derivative term, correct. This part is clear. The derivative term is used to find out the behavior of the error. If my error is increasing, you act appropriately. If my error is decreasing, you act appropriately. And this is possible by adding a derivative term, and this derivative term is this part. Okay, this is the intuitive way of understanding it. Another part is the derivative error is going to affect the transient behavior. Transient behavior means when error is high. That time suddenly you are given input, so error will be very, very different, and that's why your derivative error will play a role. Suppose you go to a steady state value. So what happened? Derivative term is going to be 0. In this case, if derivative term is going to 0, it will act as a only proportional controller. So this part, in this case, 1 plus kds, if I am adding it, it means it's a proportional plus derivative controller. In a steady state behavior, when error is constant, it will work as a proportional controller. If in the transient state, error is going to be different, so this derivative term will come and it will act as a proportional plus derivative part. So whenever I am adding a derivative term or whenever I am using a derivative control, it affects the transient behavior. It doesn't affect the steady state behavior. That's some crux I wanted to explain from this class. Okay. Now how is it going to affect your transient behavior? To explain that part, let me consider I have a system omega n square divided by s square plus, this is a typical second order system, and I have added a 0, correct. S plus z is the addition of 0 is equivalent to your derivative controller. This part is there. Now little bit manipulation I will do to explain that. Let me add 1 by z term s plus z omega n square s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. Okay, this part is clear. This z I have added, z is some constant, you are adding a 0, so I am adding a constant, and this constant will affect only the steady state value, it won't affect anything else. So now there are going to be two terms, omega n square z, z s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square plus, now the other term will z will be there, s by z omega n square s plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square, correct? Okay, this z will get cancelled out. Okay, this z will get out. So this is the one term, this is another term. So your ys by rs. Okay. Now if I want to see how this behaving for the unit step signal 1 by s, so this I can write it, y of s is going to be omega n square s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square into 1 by s. Okay, this is let me call as the rs only, correct? Rs s by z omega n square s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. Now one interesting thing one has to look at it, because the rs also will be there. You look at this term is this part, and here also one term is there. Okay, the same thing. This is addition of s term, and as we know the addition of s, sorry, not addition, multiplication. Here in this term there is a multiplication of s term, and if you look at from the fundamental of your Laplace transform, if multiply by s, it is equivalent to derivative in the time domain, correct? So I can look at my response will have two terms, term 1 plus derivative of term 1. This part is clear. This is the term 1. If I look at in the time domain, whatever response will come, it will be some response plus, because of s, it is equivalent to derivative of the term 1. This is the important part. I want you to emphasize it. The overall response is going to be term 1 plus derivative of the term 1. Okay, you can see, because that's why I have done this, s is here. Okay. Now let's see how is it going to behave here, this aspect, the response. Okay. Okay. Is that fine? I can write it here. Okay. Now look at term 1. This is the standard second order system, and for which you are giving a standard input signal. So you know the response is going to be like something. Because of the second term, what will happen at this part, the actual response is going to be this plus derivative of this term. So I will get something like this, black marker. Okay. What happened? Now the response is going to be something like this. Okay. So what happened, because okay, it's going to be like this, something. I am not drawing exactly, but I wanted you to explain. So at this point, since derivative is going to be on 0, so this term is going to be like something. Okay, so if you plot it, I am just doing something. Wait, it is going to be something like this. Okay, so what happened? Because of derivative term, it is like you are getting an early peak overshoot, and if you are getting an early peak overshoot, there is a good chance that you will reach to your tolerance band early, and your system might become faster. Okay, and remember, this derivative term will not play any role in a steady state value, because the derivative term will be 0, so it will work as a proportional controller. So this is a intuitive way of understanding that if you use a derivative controller, it helps you to improve the response of the system. It helps you to make your system faster. Okay, with this you can look at it. There is a good chance it will enter the tolerance band early. Okay, so this is what I wanted to convey this part using a proportional plus derivative controller. Okay, one aspect one has to worry about it when I am working on the derivative controller. Okay, for the derivative controller, what happened? This is my input, and this is my 1 plus STD, which I have talked about it, and this is my feedback path, and this is some transfer function I am getting it. This is a standard, okay, and I have analyzed it. Okay, if you add a derivative controller, it is very good. It is very intuitive that it will tell you whether error is increasing or decreasing, and it's a good choice, good way of working it. Okay, it's a, and also I have explained you the intuitive way that how is it going to help you to improve your settling time, and hence it will help you to make your system faster. Okay. Now one important thing is that suppose this error signal, okay, and if there is an error, this is a reference signal and this is your feedback signal, and if you take a subtraction, there is a good time I am going to get a sudden change, correct, that all of you are aware of. And if you take a sudden change, and if you take a this sudden change, let me call derivative of this, it is going to be a tricky to understand. Let me say this is my sinusoid signal, okay, and my like this E, let me call is like a 0.1 sine of 10 to the power of omega t. Okay, so here what I want to have highlight, though with error there is a one more term like this, we call as a noise term. Okay, in this term there is an actual term plus noise term also is there. Okay, let me call E hat t. This is the actual term has to come, but because there is a noise term has entered, so that's why this is the ET plus noise term. If you look at the noise term, the amplification, the magnitude or the amplitude of the noise is very, very small, but this frequency is very high, 10 to the power of omega, 10 to the power of 3. It means your noise is high frequency component. What is clear? That this error, I am writing it E hat t plus actual error plus there is some noise term. And the noise term is 0.1 into 10 to the power 3 omega t. Okay. Now, as your derivative controller talk about it, you take a d of dt, e of t. So, if you take a derivative of this, going to be 0.1 10 to the power of 3 cos of 10 to the power omega t. Okay, this is going to be there. Now, if you look at it, this is going to be your 100 cos plus et. So, look at the amplification of the noise has increased here because of the derivative term. This part is clear, because if you take a derivative, because cos and sinusoid is some sinusoid, but the magnitude has increased. Earlier it was 0.1, now it has become 0.1 into 10 to the power 3, means 100. So, the noise get emphasized in the derivative term, and that you might have studied in several other courses also, that if you take a derivative term and you can say otherwise a high pass filter, those who have studied in distance signal processing, you can see that the high pass, the derivative is a high pass filter, it emphasizes the high frequency component, and typically noise are high frequency component that get emphasized, and once this entire the big term comes, it is going to spoil your plant. Okay, that is what is very, very crucial, one has to worry about it when I am using a derivative controller. Okay, so some people what they do it, they make sure that noise should not enter at this part. They apply some kind of low pass filter, and some solutions are already proposed in this aspect. Okay, so these three controllers, just I want to summarize this: proportional controller, integral controller, derivative controller. Proportional controller, there is a pros and cons. Integral control, there are pros and cons. Derivative controller also, it helps you to improve the speed, but one has to worry about the noise. Okay. So, this three controller and how is it affecting your time response, one has to be very, very careful. Okay. Now, this derivative controller, I want to take one example and show you how sometime people have modified this way of incorporating the derivative term, and they have addressed this issue. Okay. For that, field control DC motor that you have studied in your several other courses, and this is, you know, this is going to be RF, this is your part, and you apply a voltage, then this is your armature control, this is your motor, and this is your load, correct? Fine, and this is a typical block diagram of your field control motor. This is the motor, and you are controlling the only field current, and you are keeping your armature current constant, and this is the motor, and you are connecting a load. The load is defined by moment of inertia and B, correct? This is a typical thing which you have come across. Now I want to write a corresponding block diagram representation. So I can write it. This is my 1 by Js square plus B, the plant. Here I am providing some torque, and the torque is given to this load. And yesterday, if you remember, it is a second order system. And here remember, my objective of interest is theta, is rotation. Angular, it is not angular velocity, it is the angular position. Okay, and I think about a situation where you want to control the position of your robotic arm and how is it moving it. So my attribute of interest is not speed. My attribute of interest is how I am moving it. So that's why I am using it this theta of interest, correct? And this is second order system Js square plus B. Now what happened? There is going to be a torque as an input for this system, and output is a rotation. How I am going to get torque? So this, if you look at from your fundamental of machine, this torque is going to be proportional to some Kt, If and Ia. If you go back. So since Ia is constant, If is only varying it, so I am using is the zeroth order system, and I am representing by Kt. And since the field current is provided, so I am writing this 1 by Rf. Okay. Now here some feedback path is there, because this theta r, whatever your position you are giving it, I am using a theta r, the position, the reference theta which I want. Theta means in this case the angular position, and it is converted using some potentiometer by Kp to a voltage Er, and the same Kp I am using it here, and it is available. Okay, so this is what is going to be Ep. So Er minus Ep will come, it will be given, and this I want to see if I apply a derivative controller, then what will happen. So you can see the entire subsystematic block diagram representation of this field control DC motor used to control the position of your some object. This is my plant. The transfer function I have written 1 by J square plus B, where J is your moment of inertia, B is the viscous friction coefficient, the torque is provided, the torque will be related with the field current, that's why the proportional constant Kt is written, and since I am applying this If, so I have written this voltage for Rf, and this is a derivative controller, and outside I am using this theta, okay, and this P is your potentiometer constant, where you are converting your reference theta which I want. So what are you looking for? If I am working on some problem which is controlling the movement of a robot, so I will say robot go to an angle of 30 degree. So the 30 degree will be given to here, the 30 degree will, this will be given, and here the output, what exact position is there. Suppose it's in a 20 degree, so it will be measured, it will measure by the voltage, the difference will be taken care. Now this is the error term which you have it, and you can apply your all control system constant. This is suppose I am using a derivative controller, then derivative controller will give U signal, the U signal will be given to a amplifier, this part Rf, and then Kt and Js square plus. So let me get back to the point which I started. I explain you that this is a field control DC motor, and I think about the scenario that I want to use this motor to control the movement of my robotic arm, and the robotic arm, the object here interest is the position, correct? So this motor is the load, and the load is connected to my arm, and the moment of inertia of that arm is denoted by J, and there is some viscous friction in the environment that I am denoted by B. And this here, this motor which I can use any motor, in this case I have used a specific case of this field control motor. So the field control, you know that this is going to be a field current provided, and armature current is going to be constant. So I am not going in great detail of the DC motor, I am just using this example to illustrate the idea of a derivative control system. Okay, so this things I am writing in some mathematical block diagram representation, because my attribute of interest is my theta. Theta is my position of the robotic arm, and this is varied by this is controlled by a torque, the torque is generated by a motor. So that transfer function I am denoting by 1 by J square plus B, and then torque is going to be proportional to your IF. So it is proportional to this KT torque, and here since I am providing this voltage and the current, this is denoted by 1 by RF, and here I am using a derivative controller. So what happens? There is going to be a reference position. I'll be giving a command, move my robot from this angle to this angle. So it will go some 10 degree. That will be provided since this angle is going to be 10 degrees. So I'll be going to use the potentiometer. The potentiometer constant is generated by Kp. It will convert to a voltage. Now what was the angle of the robot? Suppose it was some 9 degree. So it will be converted to 9 degree to some voltage. So this voltage is going to be some difference, and this is going to be my error. So what I will do it, this error will be given to here, the derivative controller will be provided, and the things will go. This is the way I am going to rectify. Okay. So as I mentioned, by adding this derivative controller, you are making your system fast. But one of the problem one has to be worried about it, that if there is small noise or some spike enters, since the derivative of that error, the derivative of the noise term will get amplified, and once it enters, it is going to spoil your entire system, because the very high amplitude if enters, this will go damage. So from the intuitive way of saying that okay, derivative controller is good, that's the way I talk about it, because it is giving you the error is increasing or decreasing, but I can't apply it here. So how do I do it? So some solution people have worked out. This I wanted to show it in this case. Okay. So now I will work it out on the, for time being, let me assume this viscous friction is a constant, is a 0. So my transfer function is only J square, because what I am going to talk about it will be true for the cases also. Okay. So now let me use theta r Kp, okay, and let me use only some K by Rf plus minus, okay, and here I am just writing it, okay, sorry, this is some constant here, and K, this is a proportional constant, and this K by Rf I am writing it Kt by Rf J square, okay, and here I am using a SKT, and this is your okay. Let me explain you what I have drawn. It's a very tricky thing which will have applied. Earlier this diagram was there. Now here what I am saying, don't take the derivative of the error. Okay. So that's why this term is only K is there. Now instead of derivative of error, I am taking this S. There is going to be a term here S. So what I am doing, that whatever output is coming, and if you multiply by S, it is like a derivative, taking a derivative of this input signal, and that has been provided. So look at the difference is here. Now I am not taking the derivative of error, I am taking the derivative of the output, correct? So in this case, now it will not emphasize the error the way we were doing it here. I am just taking the derivative of the error. Okay. So this is the alternate way of people have used it. Now I can simplify this diagram further. So what I will do it, I am going to just write it in this way. Please look at it, theta r. Okay. Let this potentiometer constant. This is some K. This entire term I am writing it this 1 by J square. Okay. So 1 by Js and 1 by S I have written it. Is that fine if I write it here? Okay, fine. And this is the some term like Kt by Rf. Okay. Now this term I have added it here Kt. Okay, and this remaining thing is as it is. What we are doing it, I wanted to take a derivative of the term. Now I know 1 by Js square. So I had divided in two terms, 1 by Js and 1 by S. Since this is what? Is an integral term of this is like here I am doing an integration, means here I am getting the actual derivative of the output, that I am feeding it here. Okay. This is the crux of this part. Please note it. I want to repeat it again. earlier I want to, now derivative of the output I am saying, in this case 1 by Js 1 by S, this is like a derivative of the output. I have taken it and fed it to the this block diagram, okay, and this is going to be your final output. So look at, now this we are not actually the derivative controller. This is a, I am using a controller where I am applying, where I am getting the feedback path derivative of the output. That is a very important point. I want to emphasize it, and this entire system is working. Here look at it, when I am taking this part, remember this is my theta. So what is this? Is omega, correct? Theta is a position, d omega by dt is what? Sorry, d theta by dt is omega, okay. So this is the integral term, so that's why you are getting it here. So this I can do with any tachometer, tacho generator. So that's what I want to emphasize it. This is the solution. People have talked about it when they want to use this derivative controller concept, okay. As we mentioned, the derivative controller, we have to worry about the error, and that error should not go into, this is the alternative diagram, people have talked about it. Please note that this solution is not feasible everywhere. This was feasible only in the case of this position control servo motor system, okay. So this is what I want to emphasize, this solution. That's why you can look at several places they use this feedback path. This is not derivative controller. In this you are controlling your signal, in which in your feedback path, along with error you are using derivative of the output. So that's what I want to do. So with this I want to conclude this part, that how we have seen when they use the three different controllers and how it affects your time response, correct? Proportional controller, derivative controller, and integral controller. I took example, and here I want to emphasize there is nothing like a win-win situation. Any controller, if you use it, there is plus point, there is going to be some negative aspect also. So one has to apply carefully in a specific application, okay. So with this I wanted to stop it, and I just want to give an entire picture that what we have covered in last 3 sessions. Initially we talk about the basic block diagram of control system, and then in basic diagram what are different components are involved, and each component we have represent mathematically. Once we know the mathematically, then we have seen the inverse Laplace transform to find out the time response of the system. Once we know the time response of the system, then we talk about first order system, second order system. How can I quantify? And there are some terms which you have used: peak time, settling time, maximum peak overshoot. First order system we talk about it, and then we have plug in the different controller and how these parameters are varying. And also I just missed one part, that we have talked about the steady state error constant, position error constant, velocity error constant, and acceleration error constant. So this we can relate the entire thing, and we can appreciate that when we are using any controller, one has to be very careful what is my objective and where should I apply. Okay. So if you have any question, I have uploaded one assignment. I would say that it is pretty simple, which I have worked out. You can solve this problem, and how, if you want me to take up some question, I can take it, and this assignment you can solve it.
Sir,
Yeah,
good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
I have one question, that is for an underdamped system, how can we determine the exact value of damping ratio by observing the graph?
Okay, we can't determine that way by overdamp scenario. By graph, we can't determine. Huh?
Sir, only
Sorry?
underdamped.
Underdamped.
Only
By
underdamped.
looking at the graph. Okay. By looking at the graph, we can't determine. We need a characteristic equation to find out the exact value.
Okay,
Is
sir.
that clear?
Thank you.
So, like especially I have attached 3 assignment problem, and I would say that please solve those problems. It will be very useful. The question which you are asking, how do I get it? You can solve this problem. It's a numerical problem, and it is very straightforward. That if you find out the characteristic equation, and I have provided some solution also, so that you can discuss with your coordinator at that end.
We have also second problem.
Sorry?
Hello. Sir, we
Yeah,
have
please.
second question.
Yeah. Tell me.
Sir, what is difference between compensator and controller,
Okay.
and what are their physical significance?
Okay. What happened? I have not used any word term the compensator. Okay. The compensator has been introduced because there we don't talk about in terms of the derivative controller, proportional controller, that we have seen it. There we talk about it, how do I place my poles in a S plane so that I can get a desired response. Okay. And that's why it is called compensator. If you look at phase lead compensation, phase lag compensation, it is about placing pole 0 in your root locus plan for efficient design. Okay. That's where the compensator comes. Okay. So that part I have not covered, but this is what I want to comment on, that difference between compensator and a controller. But on the other hand, if you look at it, both are serving the same purpose. It is helping you to control the response of your system effectively. Yeah, the question is, why
thank you,
is it we are not considering influence of gravitational force when deriving a transfer function for a system? Okay, please note that the transfer function we are working based on what is input, what is output. Okay, we haven't talked about it. What is the internal mechanism? Okay, it could be physical system, it could be electrical system. There we write the relation between input and output in terms of some differential equation, and this is the way we get a transfer function. So in transfer function we have to incorporate the gravitational force if it is affecting your input output relation.
Sir, why derivative controller is used?
Sorry, why?
Path? Why derivative
I missed your
controller
question.
is used in feedback path?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting your question properly.
Why derivative controller is used in feedback path?
Okay, here what happened in feedback, I told you the objective was to look at the change in error, and I mentioned that one of the problem we are getting it if some small terms, noise term get amplified. So I don't want to take derivative of the error. So one way is to take a derivative of the output. That's why the derivative term is coming in feedback path. So I am trying to achieve to the goal of what derivative control is achieving by addressing the problem of noise emphasizing. So that's why the feedback path one derivative term has been there. Okay. Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, in a first order system and second order, which system has a fast response? So typically, if you look at it, first order system, there is a one parameter tau which you have to control. Okay, so it depends on, because the first order second order system is a system property. Okay, and we can't mathematically model any system by first order second. It's going to be pretty high order. So typically, first order system give a quick response if the parameters are chosen in such a way. Okay, so we can't compare exactly in this that one is faster. Only we can talk about it. Okay, the time constant first order has to be small. Now you are choosing the time constant as small as in such a way that your settling time is also lower than that. That is a way to look at it, rather than comparing the first order. Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, will the error value from the graph of the second order equation, second order motor you showed, will the error be same for every system or will it change?
Okay, the error when we associate for the given input. Okay, so for a given input, if the unit step is going to be the what we have derived it. It is a ramp input, it's going to be different. Parabolic is going to be different. That's the way we define. So if your input is fixed, what we have derived, error is going to be same.
Sir, will the error be same for every system or can it be minimized?
It can be minimized. What do you mean by minimized? I didn't get it, your part.
Means the error value can means come down. It will won't it be the same for every system?
Okay, the error, once we have worked out that steady state error or steady state value, that is going to be what we have come mathematically, is going to be that only.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, please. Any question here?
Sir, to improve the transient response of the system, which control is suitable? Which control
Okay,
is
to improve the derivative controller. Derivative controller. An integral controller will help you to improve the steady state response. Derivative and proportional controller, these two will help you in getting improving the transient response.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, if double pole are located at both half of the imaginary axis, will the system be? If double pole are located at both half of the imaginary axis. Okay, if the poles are lying on the imaginary axis, then we call those type of system as a marginally stable system. Okay, in principle, this system are unstable, but it is specific interest for us to analyze it. Okay, so if you go in a stability and instability aspect, if there are two poles lying on the imaginary axis and no other pole line on the imaginary axis, the right half plane, we say system is marginally stable system. It means the system response is going to be oscillatory. So this will not give any unbounded output, but still it will give a bounded output. So that's why we are interested in those type of systems. So what you are saying, it is going to be marginally stable, not a stable, not unstable. Okay, it's a choosing a appropriate controller. You can go by some logic. Okay, that's why I mentioned. Am I interested in making a steady state error 1, a steady state error 0? Am I making a system quicker? So this is the way we can start, and then it is the experimental approach. It by trial and error we get it. It is not like a uniform, like a universal approach. This is the way you should go for. It's a by going in a hands of experience. What is my system? What should I use it? But I know the broad way of using each controller. So I can't decide that which control is going to be very useful. Why do you want to use the integral control the way you use the derivative control? Because the derivative controller we were facing the problem. That's why the alternative suggestion has come. Integral control, this was not a problem. So I don't think there is any need for that. Any application of PI, PD, PID? Yes. A lot of places the people, especially in all robotics place, they apply very much of part. This Nicholas tuning rules I not covered, so I don't want to comment, but still I would say like those are the current state of the approach to design a controller, and I have not covered the designing of a controller. To be frank, I have just done the analysis and the effect. So to answer that, I need to cover something more because I have not given enough background to you. To design a PI controller, yes, we need to have a plant transfer function. This is the way we do. For all this mathematical analysis which I have talked about it, you need to have a transfer function. Kp, Ki, Kd are constant of function. No, it is the independent thing. In the analysis case, though I have shown differently, I mean I have merged it, but they are different because I want to see the variation of one parameter only. Okay, how to get rid of instability in all three types? Only thing what happened in root locus design, we place the poles and 0. There is a specific way. If we add a pole, then you can see how the root locus is moving, and you can see the asymptotic behavior. So that's the way we look at it, that I should not allow any of the poles to go on the right half plane. It has to be on the left half plane only. Fine. So I will take please write me an email on this aspect. If you have any question, I'll be happy to take. Thank you.
you.